My name is Abdurrahman. I'm a lecturer at a public university in Kenya. I deliver lectures in computing and informatics. In our last lesson, we discussed about accessing structures, and we have seen that you can access structure in two ways, either using upper dot notation or which you can access up values, or using up a pointer notation. So in today's lessons, we are going to see how to access structure, how to pass up structure as a function, and into that particular journey, we are going to actually go and describe how you can do it, and then we are going to see what are the syntaxes, and finally we are going to implement actually the same. So let us start on that particular journey. So basically we are saying, just like any other data type, structure also can be actually passed into a function as an argument, and basically what we are saying, it can be passed having up three of these particular ways. It can be passed one as an individual member, so it can be passed as a member. Two, also it can be passed as a structure variable. And three, also it can be passed as a pointer. So let's go to the syntaxes and see how can we pass a structure into a function as an argument, as a member, as a structure variable, and actually as what we call a pointer. So basically it's very simple and very straightforward. So if you want to pass it as a member, basically here this is how the syntax will look like. It's very simple syntax, and basically this is how we are going to do it. In that particular syntax, we are writing up our data type here, and then we'll have our function name, and then inside our function basically we'll have up our member. And when you come up to structure variable, we'll have the same thing, our data type, and then we'll have up a function, and then here we'll have up our variable member, our variable inside there. And then the last part of it also will have our data type, and then we'll have up our function, and then we'll have our pointer inside. So let's take up an example and see actually how it looks like. So if you have got up a structure here, and this particular structure, maybe we call it at the end of the day, we call it up student. So we've got a structure called student, and basically in this particular structure we've got some data members. So we've got an array called name, and then we'll have another one called height, data type float. So how do we actually implement this example? So with this particular example, basically will be a very straightforward. So here we'll have maybe a function which is not supposed to return anything, and that particular function I'll call it just my function. Now inside here we can pass actually our char name 30, and then we can pass our float height. So that is how it is passed, and then here we will have up actually our logic. So we have actually taken up this particular structure and we have passed onto its members directly into a function called my function. So basically let's go now to Dev C++ and see if you can demonstrate the same, and see how we can pass up functions as an argument. So here we'll have up our structure, and let's call it student, And in that particular structure, basically, this is the syntax. It has to terminate there. So let's have our data members. So we can have, let's say, our data member as char, a name, and that basically will be an up an array of, let's say, 30. So here we have got up an array of 30, and onto that let's have our int, and then we'll have up our registration number. So our registration number is there, and then let's have our float, and here maybe we'll have our marks. So those are the three members within our structure. Let's now define our function. So basically we'll have up our function. Let's say a void, then we call it display, and in that particular function we are passing up directly our char name, so that is 30, and the next part of it we are passing up our int registration number, and then lastly we are passing up our float. So that is our float, and then we're putting it as our marks. So here we have actually passed on directly. So let's now define the logic. So our logic will be a very simple and very straightforward. Out of it, we just want to print the name. So here we'll just say printf, and onto that particular one we are saying we just want to print up the name. So the name, so here we just say name, which is actually %s. So we'll have up name, a very straightforward one, no problem at all. And then the next one we are saying printf, and what are we printing? We are printing up the registration number. So basically also here we're just saying registration number, and is of data type integer, and then here basically we are passing up our registration number. And then also just print straightforward. What are we printing? Here we are printing up our marks. So here we'll say marks, and it's a very straightforward marks. We'll have our percentage. So that is a float. We can put up a pointer, decimal places, 2 decimal places, and float. If you wanted to print it into percentage, you just put up percentage, and then here we'll have up our marks. So basically that it is our function whereby we have passed up everything. So we want everything to become up in a new line. So here we are adding up a new line for each and every one. So after doing that, let's actually initialize our variables, and then we actually call our function. So basically we are going to the main method, and into the main method we are saying struct student, and our variable we call it maybe s1, and that particular s1, let's assign some value onto them. So we are assigning some values. We are signing up some values, and these particular values, sorry for that. So we are signing up some value onto that. So let's assign some values. So let's assign the first one was just write up my name. That was a string, and then the registration number. Let's take for example, that was the registration number, and then the marks, maybe we're talking about 85.5. So actually that's what we have done. We have declared a variable s1, and also we have given it out that particular s1, we have given out some values. So with that, now let's try to call up our function, which was called display. So display, in that particular display, so what do you want to access? It is s1 dot, what we are accessing up, the first value was the name, and then we are accessing what? Our s1 again dot, the second part was the registration number, so it was registration number, and the third part of it, we are supposed to access what? s1 dot, we are supposed the last one, marks, so, and that is actually our marks. So that is how we have demonstrated how actually to pass up an argument, and we have seen we have declared up our function, and now we are calling it up after declaring up our variable s1. So let us run this particular program and see what happens. Yes, when we run this particular program, actually tells us your name is Abdurrahman, registration number is 2356, and your marks is 85.50%. So basically this makes up at the end of our session, and however, don't forget to subscribe into our next session, whereby we are going to talk about pointer to structure. For now, I say bye.